We all need to work together to be kind and helpful. It takes all of us. A lot of times communities go right to sales, that there's a sales problem. And then I hear it is dining, it's operations, it's making sure the apartments are ready, it's the turnover team, it's maintenance, making sure that the new building, everything's working right. So it might not be a sales problem. It could be a culture problem. It could be that operations needs to tighten up their processes, or there is no process.
She calls herself a pioness, not a pioneer. Gail Peacock isn't just consulting communities, she's reigniting their soul. In an industry still stuck in the 80s, Gail's grassroots strategies and culture-first approach offer a refreshing roadmap for the future of senior living.
Welcome to From Leads to Leases, a CCR growth podcast that helps senior living providers transform their complex challenges into opportunities. Listen in for stories from industry leaders, innovative strategies, and insights. And with our expertise, learn how to increase occupancy faster, guaranteed.
Welcome back to another episode of From Leads to Leases, the podcast that dives deep into the senior living and senior care industries, bringing you insights, strategies, and stories from the experts at the forefront of innovation, leadership, and care. I'm your host, Jerry Vinci, CEO of CCR Growth. For those of you who don't know about us, CCR Growth is a full-service marketing and growth agency that's exclusive to the senior living industry. And through this podcast, I'm here to guide you through the evolving landscape of senior care, exploring the innovations, strategies, and leadership insights that are shaping the future of the industry. So whether you're a provider, a caregiver, or industry leader, this show is here to help you make informed decisions and create meaningful impact. All right, today I'm talking with Gail Peacock, consultant, grassroots queen, and unapologetic unicorn of the senior living world. She's the founder of iCare Senior Consulting Group and part of the LCS team, where she helps communities across the U.S. and internationally reignite their culture, rebuild occupancy, and reconnect with their people. So Gail doesn't just fix sales problems. She sees through to the culture, the people, and the vibe that really drives occupancy. And she's here to help us all see the industry through a more human lens. So Gail, welcome to the show. I'm so glad to have you here.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. This is it's going to be a great conversation. You've got just a mountain of personality and thoughts when it comes to culture. There's such a shift happening in all workplaces, but I feel like in the senior living space, specifically around the building of culture within communities and how vital that is to staff retention, to happy residents, to just creating more of that human-centered lifestyle that everybody wants to build within their community. You started in 55 plus before it was even a thing. What sparked that journey and how did it shape your approach?
So coming to a new consultant, joining the new consulting kind of realm, did a lot of take opportunities and figure it out as we go, right? So 55 plus was a new sector at that time. So jumped into that out in Oklahoma. We did a lot of educating. People had no clue what it was. Was it just senior apartments? Did we have any services? So we kind of created our own culture, truthfully, around what 55, I called it 55 and better, because I always thought, our people moving in were not 55. They were closer to the 70s. But the idea of anybody can move in and we're looking for a younger audience for those communities. We launched all the different ideas, the marketing, where do we find our people? So it was a lot of homework. It was a lot of talking to people that lived in those cities, what they were looking for and what important things would make them decide to join the 55 and better community.
One of the things you mentioned too was the developer in Oklahoma called you the pioness. Where did that come from?
Yes. He was on Mr. Bob May. He was on a lot of different speaking panels talking about 55 plus. And so everyone kept gearing him to be the pioneer of 55 plus. So I told him that I will be the pioness as we work together trying to figure out this new industry, the ups and downs, the rights and wrongs of how to make 55 and better a huge segment, which it is today. It's really grown and a lot of people are really jumping on board with that new segment in senior living. Yep.
And how does iCare fit into the picture? Was that formed around the same time or was that a later venture for you?
Yeah, I first started to create a I'm going to say consulting group, because I felt like the people on site didn't really have a voice, with the higher ups. Kind of were just, always talked to the demand of, we need this, we need that, we need more people attending events, we need more move-ins, get things ready, more parking, how you can figure out everything. And so it was never really a conversation of what it was like to be on site. And so I felt like the higher ups needed to hear the voice of the people on site. And so I thought that that was kind of my gift, was to share what it's like to be on site, because I do love being on site and all the interactions with the residents and the staff and the teams there. So that was a big part of why I started it. And so in Oklahoma, we kind of kicked it off from hiring people, training people, getting the people to attend, our new prospects, and just figuring out as we go, I guess would be the best way to say it.
And what kind of response did you get in the beginning?
At the beginning, a lot of people didn't really know what they were signing up for, truthfully. I think that they just thought it was like a government subsidized type of housing. And so our price was not that. And so making sure that we went out and we explained what we are, what our charge was, and why we felt that we could deem a higher monthly fee than what property management would be if they just lived in a regular apartment. So finding your niche, and I always feel like that's kind of one of my gifts, if you will. And we'll talk about that later, about finding your gift on your team. Everyone has one, and trying to figure out from the people really what they're looking for, and finding the people that find the value in what you're trying to sell. So that was a needle in a haystack in some ways, but we did it. They did great. The communities were, way over budget of what the lease ratio was going to be before they moved in. And so it went awesome.
That's great.
No complaints.
That's awesome.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
One of the things too, you talk about a lot, is selling without saying senior, and you're adamant we need to stop using that word. Why is that language shift so important now?
Our new customer, or customer of the future, a lot of people are calling it different things, is definitely somebody now in their 70s, is a way different viewpoint. They come, a lot of them aren't going to retire. And so we say that retirement is kind of outdated now, because people are choosing to work, and they're choosing to work in what makes them happy versus just a 9-to-5 that, paid their bills. So we need to change our verbiage on how we speak to our customer. I'd say aging rebranded. So successful aging, right? That's really important. Our new customer, they expect choices, not rules. And that really hits home for me, because in the past, we're always saying, like, you can't decorate for the holidays. You can only do your door. You can only park here. You're with me. We're always setting the rules, and our past customer wasn't really enjoying that. We have to have rules, obviously, because we're all community living together. But I think that they do expect choices now. They don't want to be told they have 3 meals a day, and you're going to eat between this time and this time, and you're going to have this main meal. They want choices. They want to live the life that they're living today, but join a community for the socialization and all the other opportunities that a community brings to them. So that's a real important piece, I feel like. And the change of health center or healthcare into wellness. So that's our other big shift, is we're talking about wellness. And when we talk about wellness, we're talking about like holistically, like they were putting in Zen gardens at a lot of these new communities. And it's not something that people are say, what do we do there? It's very much an accepted term, but we're talking about the whole person in wellness. It's not just about how your heart's beating and how your blood's flowing. We talk about nutrition, right? Past, it was like, we need to get a certain amount of calories, and you need to have this many carbs and this many starch. And back in the day, that's how we talked. And now it's all about nutrition and making sure we get our protein. Like, the conversation has changed in the whole community. And so in our industry, it's changed also. Mental health has come about, which again is very accepted now. 20 years ago, we really didn't talk about those issues. Now it's very much talked about. It's accepted. People talk about the ups and the downs, just like a regular conversation that you would have. So kind of understanding the mental health piece and getting the education for our sales teams to understand really what our prospects are going through with this move, to leave their home for 40 years and all those things, right? It's a big decision and it's a big deal. So the mental health piece, I think, is something that we'll be digging into and learning more as we grow in our senior living industry, and finding purpose. This has always been a huge one for me. No matter what your age, this is me and my soapbox, but no matter what your age, everybody needs a purpose. So kids need a purpose, right? They like a schedule. They know what to expect. As a parent, you have a purpose. You know exactly what your kids need, what your husband needs, what your family pets need, right? We all have a purpose. And as an older adult, if I may, I was going to ding myself every time I said senior. So we can keep a tally on how I do.
Yeah.
So older adult, it's the same thing, right? They're retired. So that piece has gone away of their purpose every day, but they still need a purpose and they need to feel the sense of belonging. And so those things go together. So whether we help them get involved in the community, right? They want to be part of different groups and start something new, a new book club, a new adventures club, or if they just really need a purpose to be felt like they belong where they're at. And so purpose is a big deal for me. And I think that if we find and make that connection with prospects, the sales seems to come a lot easier. They feel needed. I hope that answers that question a little bit.
Yeah, it brings up more questions for me. When you talk about we're not saying senior anymore, we're saying older adult, and people are not retiring, they're still working. So how is a community set up to cater to that? Are we looking at like supporting encore careers? Are we looking at just more purpose-driven work like you were talking about? Or are there other ways that communities are positioning themselves? Is that why we're seeing lifestyle communities now versus retirement communities?
Yeah, that's a really good point. So as we call them lifestyle, because really that is what we're selling, right? The apartment is just a small amount of what their life will be like. We have the older adults. A lot of the colleges have the older adult college classes where you can go and do, photography, and we sponsor those classes on site, as well as you can go to the college and still be part of that. They have those type of volunteering. So getting involved in the hospitals if they want to be volunteering at the hospitals to give back to the schools. So intergenerational connections when, we go to the kindergarten and the people are reading stories or telling their stories. The one that I love is kind of being a champion if you did taxes back in the day and going out and talking to older adults, even mid adults, whatever range we are, midlife. It's helpful to hear their knowledge and everything that they have seen and gone through to educate us on their expertise as somebody who did taxes to come and still use their gifts, right? Though a teacher, how they go about helping with families and counseling. And so being able to be the chief speaker, even at your community, to share with other people, I think is still being able to keep them involved and sharing the knowledge that they're not just getting older, that they still have things to say and to contribute is a big piece of that.
And if older adults are they still want to live life on their terms, right? They're maybe looking to simplify and move into more of a community setting. How does a community cater to that? How do you reframe the pitch for that newer generation?
I think a big part of it is I always lean towards the education piece versus the selling piece. My belief is that, number one, you have to believe in your product and why you're there and what piece that you fit in everyone's pie, if you will. And then understanding that our communities offer a service to the right person and everyone's not our customer. And being able to understand, and as we say in our industry, which I'd love a new term of discovery because I feel like that's kind of an old word, but being able to fact find and understand really what you're looking for to figure out how I can pivot in our community to make you feel the sense of belonging. And that's our job in the chair that we sit in. So it's understanding that there isn't a fence around our community anymore. Our community could be helping at the hospital if that's important to you, or doing a speaker series of all of our residents and what their profession was that they can still share with others in college, right? The freshmen in college could really learn from somebody who's retired and done the job. And yes, it's changed, but what wisdom we have that we're missing out on, right? But the community has to be open to trying new things, and not everything's going to hit and you're going to have 100 people in the audience, but some things are going to hit and you're really going to make a difference in people's life. So really understanding what you offer and what your customer is looking for is our job, so that we can make sure that we hit everything that's important to them.
I think this falls right in line with what you were talking about with me last time about social currency. Tell me about that. What does that mean to you? Because I don't know if everyone in our audience understands that term.
Yeah, so this was a term that I kind of learned a few years ago, which I loved. Well, my term was tip of the tongue, which definitely was not very corporate corporate friendly, maybe. So I
Yeah.
love the term social currency. In every conversation that we have, no matter who we're having a conversation with, that conversation, that social interaction has currency. So we can't put a dollar amount on that necessarily. But with me talking with my friends about a community and how happy my mom is, or hey, I went by, I was at the grand opening, and what I saw and felt, and sharing that is our the big foundation of our resident referrals, right? So when they say, my gosh, Jerry, this was the best place, and I love this, and I met Susie, and my neighbor lives there, and they take my dog, and they have a pet area, and they go on, and all that is worth money, right? We pay for digital advertising, we pay for all this, but that social currency, to me, in my experience, is worth a lot of money. And so being able to educate people so that they can educate others, maybe it's not right for them, but they're going to share their experience, which our older adults definitely do share, right? They love to say what they've
Hmm.
been doing this week, and
Yeah.
they don't have a million things going on. So those little interactions kind of take the top seat on the bus of what they're going to talk about with their friends at their luncheons, at their family gatherings. So I feel like having social currency and being able to be on the tip of people's tongue when they're visiting is so important. So you have to make it memorable. You have to make it hit here. And I think sometimes we get too businessy, and this is about the heart, right? And where we're going to feel a sense of belonging and all those things. There's a business component, but this is a heart decision and a feeling decision. So that's what's going to remain in their minds to share with others.
How do you think more communities could do a better job with social currency? Because I feel like a lot of communities, they're pretty intentional when it comes to promoting a specific event or a campaign of some kind, and they're big in the community during those moments. But then there's other times where it falls to the wayside. I feel like this type of approach should be something they're doing on a regular basis as part of their strategy. What kind of advice do you have to communities to help keep this going?
So we talk a lot about the pre-event, the event, and then the post-event.
Mm,
So when we have an event, we have to plan to have a successful event, and what goes into having a successful event. And we talk about being on camera, doing a video, and people being able to see who you are, so that also when they come into a room of 50 people, they're like, oh, she looks familiar, I saw her on the video. And that might seem very 101, but a lot of communities don't do that, and welcome them on video and say, can't wait to see you. Remember, it's Thursday, 1 o'clock. We're meeting here. Watch where the parking is. To give those little tidbits on the video
right.
so that people feel like you're personally inviting them, and they have a stake that, when we're invited somewhere and we don't go, we have that little tinge inside where it's like, oh, I should have been there. They were counting on me. And so that, I think, is part of the video piece. And videos, thank you, to everyone getting comfortable with that, but it really makes a difference. So being able to plan and have that interface where people can see eye to eye makes a difference. And then obviously welcoming them and making sure you have the right team, the staff, to be able to acknowledge everyone, help them park, help them come in. Because those first like 5 seconds or whatever the researchers find, but those are the most important parts that we have. Make it or break it right then. If they're frustrated and you know what I mean, they don't feel like they knew where to park and they didn't know what door to go to it, and they've already talked to 3 people on their way into the event and no one was helpful. And so we're kind of making up time. So I think that being personable, so calling people prior to events and just doing the confirmation. And yeah, that's kind of a check in the box for us that, hey, did you call everybody who's coming? And we're like, yeah, yeah, yeah. But did you really call everyone and say, hey, looking forward to seeing you? And I know that you're a Baylor graduate and we have more people that are going to be attending the event that went to that college. And we're going to make sure that you meet different people that, have similar interests. That's a call to confirm that makes a difference versus, hey, Jerry, you're going to be there at, 5 o'clock. Okay, we'll see you at 5. Thanks, bye. And that there's no personable piece of that. And my joke always is make sure you bring your checkbook, which nowadays we're going to have to change that to credit card because no one has a checkbook anymore. And that's I kind of do it tongue in cheek a little bit, but, to make sure that they know that they're going to make a decision today and just plant that seed that what you're going to hear is you're going to like. So those are some different ideas for the event to make them feel a little bit more of the feelings versus just the business piece of it.
It takes the mystery down too. I think a lot of people are hesitant to go to something like that. It's already, I don't want to say stressful. It's not always stressful, but it's an emotional decision, obviously, and it's a huge decision for somebody to even be considering a move into a community. So if you can do anything to make them feel more comfortable before they even get there, that's going to make such a huge difference. And that's the first interaction they're having with your community, with your brand. I mean, that says so much for how they're going to be treated when they're there.
And I share with people that this could be the first time, to your point, that they've ever set foot into a senior living community. And we have a huge responsibility to make them feel like we are as welcoming as what you hear. And so if we flub that up, that just becomes then they're kind of, again, senior living and they're staying at home and they're not going to move and all those feelings come out. So well said. Well said. That's a big responsibility that I think sometimes we get so in the rut and so this is what we do and we become a machine at it that we forget the human part. And just a quick story that we had an event recently and the presenter was kind of nervous, like I've never really presented before and I hope I do a good job. And I'm like, and I just held her hands and I was like, be you. Be you. You're wonderful. You know what you're talking about. You have passion. Just be you because there's nobody like you. And that just kind of, brought down the nerves of trying to be something that we're not with all of our notes. And, are you that person or are you just going to speak off the cuff and be passionate about this new expansion that you guys are offering? So I think that that's also a piece that we have to remember. The human piece is way more important than the business piece. And the owners are saying, no, no, no.
No, that's so true.
Wouldn't go.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's huge. It's huge. And, I was kind of laughing just doing some research and having calls. So it's budget time. So we're having calls. And one of mine, kind of when we talked before, my fleeting thoughts that come in back in the day, and I'm going to say back in the day, people moved into, I'm going to really say senior living, nursing homes. Was it their last place? And that was a place that they were going to be dying in. And this line came to me and I was giggling about it actually. But then when I wrote it down, I was like, you know what? This might be something where instead of, this is really dark, but dying in place, now it's thriving in place, right? So we talk about aging in place, and that's another term that we've talked about for a million years, right? But instead of aging in place, how about thriving in, in that place? And that's going to be a switch for all of us. Because that's what they're looking to do. They're looking to live their next chapter thriving, not necessarily just sitting watching TV. So I thought that little quote was kind of interesting to have a mind shift of.
I love that. I love that. And that goes right with what you're saying about the human piece of it being, in my opinion, the most important piece. And then aside with that, I think is culture, which is what I wanted to talk about next. I think you and I both agree that it's not the amenities that sell anymore. It's the culture because every community to some degree is offering the same set of amenities. It's really hard to differentiate yourself on that. So it's really the culture piece. So how do you build that culture from the inside out that makes people want to join, to be a part of something, to live in that community?
I think making sure that everybody is a salesperson at your community. We all sell, from housekeeping to the maintenance guys walking by with the ladder, being cordial and helpful and smiling and saying hello. Our communities, we need to make it a place of community and being able to, like, a lot of our communities have really done a great job with culture accepting everyone. Doesn't matter, solo aging is now like another tag word, keyword, is solo aging, where probably in my parents' day, being a solo ager was negative, right? You were mourning somebody that you lost your partner, or you know what I mean? It was, you're a widow or a widower, was more of that tag. And now it's like solo ager, which again is such a positive way to go into aging, that you don't have to have a partner. And so I love the spin on that, and accepting everyone. So no matter what your beliefs are, no matter who your partner is, it doesn't matter. And so when we start that early in a community and open our arms to everyone and that sense of belonging, and we have a community at LCS that does that so wonderfully, and everyone knows it. And so that friendship, that kind, shake of a hand and a hello means more to them than some communities that I think haven't really adopted that. There's so much that goes into that location and how long they've been doing business and all that too. Culture is so apparent within 5 minutes when you walk in the community. So the culture of, do we stand and shake hands? Like back in the day, we stood up when somebody came into the room and we would shake their hands. Now not so much, right? And we used to make sure that we were kind to our elders, right? We almost were like a child, like giving extra kindness. And I think my magic in senior living is, I've always said, is just treating them just like I treat everybody. They don't want to be treated differently. And yes, they want to be treated that they have knowledge and all that. Yes, and expertise, but not as a person. Like they still like to cut up and laugh and tell jokes and be a real person versus kid gloves. And we're like doing this around them to make sure that they feel, sturdy, if you will. So I think that we start with culture with every single person. And I love to stop people to say, why are you here? Why did you choose to work at our community? And that really brings out that the culture, we can have a million different things that we believe is our pillars and all that. But when you really get down to the people, are you here for the right reasons? Older adult community, I almost said it. Our older adult community, they feel that. They know if you're genuine or not. And I will give that to people that are, seasoned. They definitely can feel if people are being authentic or not.
A couple of data points for you. Just talking about occupancy, if we look at like the primary markets, occupancy climbed from 80% in Q2 of 21 to about 88% in Q4 of 24. And also, in terms of the number of units that are available, the 80 plus population is expected to grow 36% by 2030. So about 564,000 new units will be needed, but we only have about 191,000 that are expected to be built. My question is, with the demand outpacing supply, what opportunities exist for communities to differentiate themselves through grassroots culture and connection?
So a lot of communities are throwing around, some are doing it actually, about like a community without walls, if you will, so that we can keep up with the demand. And I'm sure you've heard that term. Depending who you talk to, you'll hear different beliefs. I'm a believer. I do think that we can offer services to people that are at home that they are missing. The social piece is a big piece of that. Until we are able to grow the unit count to be able to have, and we love to hear those numbers, but then we sit back and say, are those really people that want to be in a community? Because I do believe there's a piece of that too, right? A lot of people just want to stay at home, which is fine. Like we're never going to win that war, right? But being able to bring the socialization and opening our communities up to people that are at home, that are by themselves, and they don't have anyone to have Thanksgiving with, and those little invitations can mean a lot. So we have a tall order, I feel like, to be able to accommodate this silver tsunami everyone's been talking about. I personally don't feel concerned about it. I feel like we have apartments that are available, and we're trying to tweak our industry so that every community is what everyone would want in a community, which obviously is a big undertaking. But I feel like being able to offer services, the senior centers in your areas that offer different classes and still a sense of belonging, but they're not ready to be in an actual community yet. So we have some work to do, that's for sure. But we also have a wait list of 5 years, some communities. We can't even build it that quick. And so people are waiting because now this is something that they actually want. This new customer, they actually want this versus us trying to sell the old customer. But that what they want is very specific. And so being able to win that war of what they want is what we're selling is kind of where we're at now. That's the new paradox, if you will.
That was actually a question I had too. And we keep hearing about the silver tsunami. There's so many more older adults entering the market, but just because they're of the age to enter the market, are they really entering the market? Or is the sentiment that more older adults are going to be looking towards some type of lifestyle community versus staying at home? Or is the likelihood that more of them will stay at home? Or is it just a numbers game? There's just more people in the market, therefore there's going to be a higher demand for senior living.
I agree. I think it is just the numbers game. And, if we have 1,000 people, right, some of them are going to want the 55 and better apartments. That's the lifestyle that they're looking for. They don't want the yard anymore and those things, but they want the sense of community. And some are going to be the CCRC life plan community people where they want to feel that security, the buy-in amount and that they're made their decision no matter what happens to them through their different stages of life. So I think we have enough segments to fit the people that are coming, but a lot of them, we always say our biggest competitor is the home. And then they want to stay at the home. And so this new kind of life plan, CCRC without walls, I think could help that, where they could come into the community and feel that they're part of something, but they can still be at home. And if they're not ready, it's kind of the best of both worlds is how I see it. Definitely.
One of the big challenges too, I think, was diagnosing the root problems within a community. And often it does come down to culture. But everybody loves to blame sales. 85% of the time, I think you said it's not a sales problem, it's a love problem. Can you explain that?
Yes. So again, with my big word, so I call it a love fest. And so I think it's important that all the systems are in place. Everybody has a role to play in a community, and that's any community. We have a role to play. Dining needs to be 100% doing right. And if they're not doing right, having the person that is going to figure out the problem and solving the problems on the spot, fixing it on a weekly basis. Same with operations. A lot of the handbooks, if you will, that we send out, again, I'm going to go with the rules. These are the rules of living in our community. And now our people aren't really wanting rules, right? They want to know that, hey, if I want in my garage to set up a art studio, I can do that. It's not like I can't, right? Because it keeps saying, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do this. And so our new customer isn't going to play like that. So we all need to work together to create, since the moment you walk in, the reception, to be kind and helpful and not just be there watching the clock to be like, when's my next break time that I get to, go and have a Coke or whatever. So it takes all of us. So a lot of times communities go right to sales, that there's a sales problem. And then I hear the other operations, person on my shoulder of, operations is so mammoth, right? It is dining, it's operations, it's making sure the apartments are ready, it's the turnover team, it's maintenance, making sure that the new building, everything's working right. And if it's not, do you have 24 hours to fix the problem? What's the action that you're taking? And sometimes the action is, I'm so sorry that your light over your kitchen sink is not working. We have to order a light bulb, right? Communication. Let's communicate with them. That's all that they ask. We don't necessarily always have to we'll be there in 2 minutes and, everyone's frantic. It's communicating to say, I'm so sorry, analyzing the situation and figuring out when can we really fix the problem. So it might not be a sales problem. It could be a culture problem. It could be that operations needs to tighten up their processes or there is no process. So what is the process for a work order, right? And we kind of laugh because this goes back to a long time ago, but do people call to say, hey, how was it when we came in to fix your light over your sink? Was everything taken care of? Was there anything else that we could have done differently? Is anyone calling an actual person, not AI, an actual person calling and asking those questions? Because what I found when there's a maintenance issue, that's what I would do. And what I found is there's so much more of problems and it's not really about the light over the sink. It was about the carry out now and dining is taking too long. My food's cold and I'm not happy about it. You get so much more when
Hmm.
you ask people what their feedback is. So yes, you go to sales because as I always say, it shows up in sales, right? The issues that you have in all the different departments are going to show up in sales because you're not going to have move-ins and your back door is going to be wide open. So it is going to show in your numbers, but we need to dig into those numbers and figure out really where the issues are and fix them.
What about in leadership? The one thing you had coined was the permission to be human rule for burnt out leaders.
Yes. I think it's really important to work as a team, to be honest with your team. We as the sales team are always having to be on. So as soon as we walk out of our office, we are on stage. And that is the expectation that the residents have, the team has. And so if you're having a bad day, be respectful of your team to be like, you know what, I'm just going to make calls today. Like I can't do it today. And being able to be real with your team, mind you, be real every day of the week or 2 times a week. But it's nice to know, you know what? I didn't sleep. I was up with my kid last night. I'm just going to kind of stay in the office. I'm going to do the envelopes. I'm going to put, whatever is the task for the team and know that your team, like, I got you. I'll go work the dining room today and I'll make, I'll do the smiling piece for the sales team and make the heart connection for you today because we have to validate where people are. And I think that's a lot more acceptable now than it was in the past. That's always how I've been with my teams. I think we all need to come together and you can't fake it out there because people are going to know that you're not genuine of why you're asking. And another piece of the culture is working the dining room. So this is kind of my soapbox about the dining room. I think that is when we have our residents, right? And they're in a comfortable scenario because usually dining time is a very open time to visit with residents. Always bringing a notepad because we think we can remember things, but we can't. And asking people, how's your meal? How's it going? Can I get you anything? And they look at you because they know that you're part of the sales team, the ops team, whatever team you're part of, that they see you in a different lens when you're in the dining room and asking those questions. I think it's real important to at least every leader to hit 1 meal a day. And we used to back in the day, we would assign people who was doing breakfast, who was doing lunch, and who was doing dinner so that somebody from the leadership team was walking the dining room. Because that's really where you find the magic, the good and the bad from the residents. So that's a piece of the culture too.
Best communities I've seen, it all revolves around the dining schedule. Some leaders in the communities I've spoken with, they rotate staff that are in the dining room where managers in every department are working the dining room during various times of the day or the week, just for that reason, to get to know the residents, to understand them on a deeper level and to maybe get some unique feedback, that maybe the dining staff wouldn't get.
Exactly. And the insider, and
Yeah.
it's also nice to be like, oh, I've been in the dining room and she always loves, key lime pie. And so when there is an issue that we're resolving, we know that that's our favorite dessert, to make a note, to make sure that that's what we bring up to our apartment when we're going to maybe say, hey, you know what, we're going to have to move you because we're redoing the air vac or whatever, right? And noticing the detail piece is what is going to make you stand out and be different. I'm a huge TikTok fan, and I know a lot of people judge that. But my belief in the tickety-tockety, as I call it, but my belief in TikTok is, we as leaders seem to preach the same goals, the same methods, if you will. But I think hearing it from someone else makes such a difference. And TikTok is pretty casual, right? So people can learn, like we've been talking about, this is so important. And when you send a TikTok of somebody else saying it, it's the same message, it's just someone else. And so I've found that sales training, customer service 101 has so much more impact when we can follow up with TikTok or Facebook or LinkedIn, any of those social media sources, to send them an article or something else that's saying the same thing, but from a different, viewpoint, different mouth, if you will, voice.
And given your experience with Grassroots style of finding best fit prospects, I mean, what are your top strategies that you would recommend that communities implement?
To find people where they are, I think that, so let's say, a new thing is pickleball. Well, maybe it's not that new, but pickleball is a huge thing, right? And that's our active older adults. And so when we go to where they're comfortable and they choose to go is when I feel like they're more open to hearing our song and dance about what we're doing at the community. So they're comfortable in their surroundings. Their expectation is not to really be caught off guard with somebody saying, "Hey, have you heard about our new expansion happening?" and XYZ and give your little blurb. And so I feel like making sure we know where our customer is. I love the element of surprise. That's a big one for me. So going into restaurants or places that our demographic is hanging out and buying desserts for the table, or making sure that if we know it's their birthday, because when it's a birthday at a table, we all know it's a birthday at the table, no matter what. And making it important to give your card, always give your card, but leave your card and just say, "Hey, I'd love to buy you a dessert from XYZ community." And make that, again, that social currency piece, they're going to be telling their family, their friends, their neighbors that they got dessert from XYZ and they're going to still have your card, and that element of surprise. And that shows way before they even come to your community how you're going to be treated at the community, because it's kind of that soft close, if you will, that they get a personality of what the community is about, considering what you're doing for them. That's a big piece of it. I always believe that we don't really sell. Again, I kind of talked about educating, and I just explain to people, "Hey, just wanted to let you know what's happening in your market. Can you believe we're adding 70 more, apartment homes to your area because of the need? Like, do you even know there's that many people?" You know what I mean? Like educating them through
Mhm.
that curiosity versus, "So we're here and we're offering this and it offers this," and that's, nobody cares. Nobody cares that much. But if you make it about them and it's about their group of people, their age demographic, they definitely come on, and it's amazing how many people will want to come to your community and hear more about it.
Yeah, I guess every generation has FOMO on some level. Everybody has that fear of missing out on some
Yes. Well,
level.
we have a lot of people that see an expansion, right? And they drive by every day, and then they'll say, "Well, we want to definitely come by. We're not looking, but we want to see what the market's offering." And so I'm always, we call them looky-loos, but it's looky-loos are your social currency. So even though we all kind of, they're just coming to look, to me, you are our advertising. So roll out the red carpet just as much for those people, because that is going to make the impact, right, of those people coming in, and they're going to be talking because they're not really looking to move. So they're going to tell the positive. They're going to really share their experience because they don't feel like they're being sold at all. So that is very, very valid, very valid. We love to show what we're doing in the community.
One thing I wanted to make sure I share with our audience too is that you're a podcaster at heart. So just real quick, I wanted to talk about the Girlfriend's Guide to Senior Living, which was the name of your show. What did that podcast unlock for you?
So the podcast was definitely an adventure. This was before being on camera, before COVID and all that was acceptable. The main reason why I started the podcast was to educate people before they were sitting in our office in our community and having an emotional reaction to having to make a decision. So educating people about our industry, signs to look for, educating them that it's not so scary, and making it fun and concise and community driven. So that was kind of my goal for it. So people could listen and be like, "Oh my gosh, that's so me. And my mom's going through the same thing. I'm not the only person that is fighting with their mother about getting on a ladder to change the battery on a clock," which was my personal story that I share with my mother, going on a ladder to change the battery. We shared personal stories with our aging parents, which also I think makes that connection with people, that we were giggling and frustrated alongside everyone else that's going through it. But it was amazing to hear the comments from all over. International comments would come over. "Thank you so much. And, you helped me take the keys away from my parents that they shouldn't be driving anymore." Like, those are big, huge moments. And sharing, because I was going through that with my father at that time, and sharing our personal stories of, the ups and downs of making those big decisions as a family. So it was awesome. I loved it. And I commend you again for doing this, because I feel like it's something that I love, and I don't know why I don't do it anymore. I don't have an answer for you, because I do think it makes a difference to understand the passion of what we do every day, that it is passion of why we're in this industry. Just like people that work with young kids, they're passionate about young kids and framing their mind to, as they grow older and all those different important things. We're the same on our end as well.
Of all the people I've spoken to over the years, there's probably a handful that I've heard have left the senior living industry. I mean, everybody is here and they're here to stay. Everybody loves this industry. And that's one of the biggest reasons why we have this podcast, is to highlight some of those stories and to share those with other people so that they know they're not alone. Whether it's someone just sharing some insight like you're sharing today, or someone who's struggling with a challenge within their community or their leadership team. I think it's so important for us to just recognize that our problems are, while our problems are unique, the overarching challenge that we're trying to
Mhm.
accomplish are very similar across the board, and we can all learn from each other. In this industry, I feel like everyone is very open to sharing. Nobody is gatekeeping anything, which is one of the reasons why I love it so much.
Mhm. And it's amazing because as a consultant going into all these different communities, and they would kind of have the same story, right? And it was always the same problems. So they felt like we cannot crack this and we don't know why this is happening, but it is the same. So one after another, the communities, something is failing. And so you have to find out what that is. And then once we get it back on track, and it's usually not too hard to get back on track, whether it's just more training or not so closed-minded to think of, like we're saying, our new customer doesn't want any restrictions, right? They want to be able to do and travel and go and lock their door and know that we're going to feed their cat. Those things are important to them. So our industry is very small, but it's getting to be very big. And my big belief is we need to start just changing our verbiage so that we entice our new customer and we're not saying those bad words that, would be bleeped out, because senior is just, nobody wants to be a senior, right? No matter how old you are. My father, I will leave you with this. My father, who was 92, I think 91 at the time, we wanted him to get into the senior center, and he went there. He's like, all they are is old people. I don't belong here. Mind you, he had a walker and you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And yet to him, the audience, that was not his people, but it was his people. So, whenever people use terms that are old and archaic, I just say the stories, that's what they see. They don't see themselves. Like we say, oh, the 50's the new 30 and all those kind of jokes back and forth. But it is true. So we need to, validate our customer where they're at and how they see themselves.
My last question to you, given the fact that we're in this transitional phase of leadership within the industry, what would be your message to the next generation of senior living leaders?
I love that question. And let me say, I talked to my mentor and I said, all my mentors are retiring. And she's like, you're the new mentor. I'm like, that is very scary. That is scary to think that that's what we are now. I believe and I mentor people to always be human and lead with kindness. And I know that that's a big piece over social media, but I preach that if you lead with kindness, you can do no wrong. So whether that is, again, about the work order, right? Just being honest to be like, hey, this is where we're at. We have a guy sick today. They're not going to be coming out. And so tomorrow it's top of the list, but I just want you to know, is there anything else I can do for you? And, being human to people is what they want. And I think that we forget that when we're in the hustle and bustle. So for people coming up in this industry, I would say no holds barred, do so much research that you can to hear different people's opinions on different topics. If something doesn't sit right with you, investigate it, right? Be curious and listen to TikTok. Read some articles on LinkedIn to really understand the why. And I think that that's really important, that they don't just take what we tell them as truth and gospel, that they do a little bit of research to make it feel right with them. So, but it's scary to think that we're on that side now. We're going to teach them
We
the
are.
ropes. Yes, that is a little spooky to me, but I believe that hopefully we're going to teach them differently. We're not going to have phone scripts anymore, right? There's a reason why we have those to help navigate the conversation, but we don't need to be told like machines on how to ask questions and all those things. So I hope that those changes happen. And we have services like you, right? You have podcasts now you can listen to, and there's so much more information at people's fingertips than there was back in the day too. So I think that'll make a difference.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Gail, thank you so much. This was such a great conversation. Where can our audience go to learn more about eye care or connect with you?
Probably LinkedIn would be the best way to find me. So you can find me on LinkedIn. Thanks.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. All right. So as we wrap up today's episode, I want to thank Gail Peacock for showing up with full energy and fearless honesty. From grassroots prospecting to redefining what leadership really looks like, Gail's perspective challenges us all to put culture and connection at the heart of senior living. If you want to connect with Gail or learn more about her work with iCare Senior Consulting Group, her LinkedIn is in the show notes. And as always, we hope you found this episode insightful and inspiring. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform and stay tuned for more episodes where we continue to explore the evolving world of senior care, covering everything from innovative care models and leadership strategies to family support, technology, and the future of aging. Also, remember that From Leads to Leases isn't just an audio experience. We're also a video podcast. So if you want to see the video versions of our episodes, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube or Spotify channels. I'm Jerry Vinci, CEO of CCR Growth. Thank you for joining us on From Leads to Leases, and please like, subscribe, and share this episode with anyone who might find it useful. I'm truly grateful for your time and attention. And until next time, lead with strategy and with heart. Chat with you again soon. Thanks, Gail.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to From Leads to Leases. Are you ready to fill your rooms faster and increase occupancy? Visit ccrgrowth.com to learn about our Senior Growth Innovation Suite, a proven system to generate highly qualified, tour-ready leads, accelerate sales, and reduce acquisition costs. Let's connect and turn your challenges into opportunities. See you next time.